Well, it looks like a great day out there. We're going to have an even better afternoon in here. We're going to have a great session. Our session name is appropriate, isn't it? Driving Growth in Challenging Times. We have the right cast to take us to the winner's circle today. The bottom line up front is that today, the end of our session, you will walk out of here with the plan. Can't wait to tell you more about it. Now, a list of ever-growing challenges gets added daily, and more roadblocks get put in your path. Today, we brought in an expert in the franchising world to assist us in our exploration of what the future looks like for Home Instead. His name is Robert Stidham. We've known Robert for many years. He is a giant in the franchising industry, which means you probably haven't heard of him. Last year alone, Robert spent 260 nights away from home in 100 different franchised organizations. He's helped build 2 of the top 25 largest franchise organizations in the world. And Robert led the international division of a small company by the name of Home Depot and Management Recruiters International as well. And he helped build MRI from 300 to 1,700 units in just under 8 years. Robert was able to spend some time with us at the home office in March. He came in for a day to meet everybody, and he passed the test. But we've had a relationship for about the past 8 or 9 years together. And I can say personally, what does this all mean? It sounds impressive. What it really means is that he is able to share his experiences and best practices from hundreds of different franchise organizations. And let's face it, a new person, what they bring is fresh perspective, and that's what Robert brings. And he has an unparalleled ability to speak to best practices, not only in home care franchise businesses, but all franchise businesses. He'll be an extra light for some, and for some, he's going to be able to confirm what you may already know. He is, as the kids say, the bomb diggity. I can also say personally from Robert, speaking off the cuff a little bit, he's a guy that's also been through incredible personal challenges as well. He had a son 3 years ago in a major car accident. Robert oversaw his son's care. His son, who was, I think, 20 years old at the time, was 7 months in the ICU. Robert did absolutely everything in his power to make sure his son got the absolute best care. Robert also helps oversee his stepfather, who has early onset Alzheimer's disease, so he really gets it, and he really has the heart. And unfortunately, we have so little time with him today, you won't get to see that side of him, but just wanted you to know he really shares the values that we know all of you share. And so you guys share that together with us. We're going to enjoy gaining insights from his unique perspective today. Now, you also hear from 4 of your peers who are taking a proactive approach to navigating the future. They experience the same challenges that all of you face, the same obstacles, and they operate highly successful businesses in Long Beach, California, Cleveland, Ohio, Erie, Pennsylvania, and Manassas, Virginia. And I can guarantee most of you aren't going to vacation this year in Cleveland or Erie, correct? Okay, not that they're not great towns, but they're not successful just because of where they find themselves and where their businesses are. They've fought obstacles in their own markets just like you have. They all have a unique story to tell. They have dug deep, innovated, looked in the mirror, and they've grown their respective businesses 44% on average in the last 2 years. We look forward to hearing from our very own Home Instead resident experts today. Now that's a lot of fun to have this afternoon. Are you up for it? You guys up for it? All right. One quick thing, another thing off the cuff. We have one franchise owner coming to the stage that speaks fast sometimes when she gets excited. Her name is Jacqueline St. Clair. Okay, so Jacqueline's going to be coming up, so I want you to do a favor for me. If Jacqueline is talking too fast, I'd like all of you just to start clapping rapidly. So can you guys do that right now? Can I hear a rapid clap? Okay, thank you. So then that will be a sign. Hopefully, she'll hear the claps and slow down the pace. Thanks, Jacqueline. Well, listen, as the industry and operating a small business gets more complex, it's really important to rely on a higher power, right? And at Home Instead, we believe in this, and we try to practice it regularly. So before we begin today, let's grab some inspiration from a higher power, shall we? Does that sound good? Relying on a higher power provides inspiration, encouragement, and meaning because life hits hard. Amen? Amen. So in light of needing to look to a higher power, who better to turn to for this than Rocky?
You ain't gonna believe this, but you used to fit right here. I'd hold you up and say to your mother, this kid's gonna be the best kid in the world. This kid's gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew. And you grew up good and wonderful. It was great just watching you every day. It was like a privilege. Then the time come for you to be your own man and take on the world, and you did. But somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that. I'm always gonna love you no matter what. No matter what happens. You're my son, you're my blood. You're the best thing in my life. But until you start believing in yourself, you ain't gonna have a life.
All right. I love Rocky. Top Rocky movies in order: Rocky 3, Rocky Balboa, Rocky 4, Rocky 2, Rocky 1, and then finally Rocky 5 with Tommy Morrison. And I'm willing to argue that at the bar this evening. And whether you're a Rocky fan or not, you can't argue with what Rocky said, and many of you have been feeling it. Life hits hard. Life hits hard. It's not about what happens to you, however. Life is about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. We need some of this Rocky wisdom today within the Home and Said Network, and we need to keep our own fighting spirit alive. Now, your issues and how you approach the future fall into two camps, whether you know it or not. And many of you who have been through a Stephen Covey presentation, this might look familiar. Now, the things that occupy your concerns, the things that you can do nothing about, that weigh you down, drag you down, and again, the focus here on the circle of concern, the things that you really can't have any influence over, those things fall into your circle of concern. Now, the circle of influence are the things that, you're going to hear from your peers today about what's inside of their circle of influence. And those are the things that they can take, you and they are taking control of. As we start here today, one of the things we want you to be able to focus on are those things that are going to fall within your circle of influence. So at your tables today, you're going to see a handout. And as we go through, take note of the things that are falling inside of the owners on stage, inside of their circle of concern and their circle of influence. Life hits hard, and those things in the circle of influence, those are the things that keep you and your business moving forward. So on the back of your handouts, that's where you can take note of the things that are in your circle of influence. Does that make sense? So the circle of influence is the heart. It's the control center of any person, business, or living creature. So those things, you're going to hear from owners here on stage, and they're the things that are within their control that when they look back in the mirror, they can do something about it. So we'd encourage you as we go today to continue to note those down. identify what's in your circles, and then finally, after your fellow owners go through our session today, we're going to have a session. Robert's going to be coming up here after he speaks for about 30 to 40 minutes. We're going to bring the owners up, and we're going to have about 10 to 15 minutes each with them. And that's when you're going to have an opportunity to take notes of them. And we really want you to look inside and see what things you're going to walk away with today inside your circle of influence. That is going to be your plan walking away from the session today. Does that sound good? All right, so first of all, clap for Jacqueline. All right? That's when she's talking fast. And next, let's offer a warm Home and Stead Senior Care welcome to Mr. Robert Stidham.
Thanks, Mark. Good afternoon. I'm excited to be here, and I want to thank the Home and Stead Senior Care team for this opportunity to spend some time with all of you. I came in yesterday afternoon and have to tell you, I've really enjoyed participating in your convention. What a great event. You know a little bit about me, and frankly, a little bit about me personally. Going off script for a moment, it is a bit unique as a speaker to have the appreciation that I have for what all of you do, given the circumstance with both my son and my stepfather that Mark commented on. Behind me are a list of some of the clients that our company works with, Franchise Dynamics, and that we have worked with over the last 8 years. Our clients are companies of all sizes, but we also do some work with companies in the healthcare and wellness space. So we know a little bit about companies in your category of franchising, and we're familiar with some of the challenges that you may face. We have a very full agenda today. There's a lot that we're going to try and accomplish, and I am especially delighted that we're going to spend some time with some of your colleagues a bit later in the presentation. So let's talk about the challenge of change. Times in every business are challenging, not just yours. Annually, I personally visit with about 100 franchise companies of all sizes from all over the world, and things in their business, just like your business, are not what they once were. Interesting, last night at the cocktail before our dinner, I had the chance to overhear some of the franchisees talking, and it was surprising to me that many of you talked, or that I overheard talking, were talking about the good old days, the way that things used to be, and it's fun to reflect back on what things once were in the organization, but that's clearly not where we're going. Change in life and in business really is the only constant. So change is difficult. Nothing great, nothing, was ever easily achieved. It's easier to become number one in any business than to remain number one, and frankly, that's difficult because everything over time changes. If you cannot change as the marketplace changes, your business will not survive over a long period of time. I promise you that at the end of the 19th century, the last company in this country to make a buggy whip had a very, very fine product. They're not in business today. Why? The automobile. So we know that change is difficult. Einstein once remarked that insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result. You can't succeed in the future doing the things that made you successful in the past. So using Einstein's definition, what I'm going to propose to you today is that we all need to stop being crazy. So what's changed? A lot of things going on outside of our control as entrepreneurs and business people. We have a sluggish economy, and with no politics, a lot of uncertainty around the Affordable Care Act, commonly referred to as Obamacare. Regulatory changes, increased taxes. My company, based in Illinois, 2 years ago, I woke up to a state income tax rate that was increased 70%. We had to adapt. Technology. Technology today is impacting the business that each of you have, And technology is impacting all business, both good and bad, and we have to respond. In every business, you have challenges. You have price compression. You have more competition than ever before. You have a need to market your service, to build your brand. The reality is that the market for your services is continuing to grow. So is the number of competitors. So are the number of competitors that will sell for a lesser price. The reality is that you have to continue to invest in technology to get scale, in marketing to grow market share, and to build your brand. So, we clearly can't do the same old things and expect a different result. We know that change is the only constant in life. We also know that things are moving at an increasing rate and faster tempo. I was amazed to come across a small fact. Today, the sum total of human knowledge now doubles in less than 7 years and is accelerating. Think about that. In 2014, we know twice as much as a people and as a planet than we knew in 2007. That is amazing. Moore's Law. The generational life of any technology is 1/2 the time of the last cycle. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but in 1960, we had a very different technological world. I remember as a child, we had 3 channels on TV, ABC, NBC, and CBS. By the way, if you were a kid back then and the president was on, you were totally screwed. There was nothing but the president. There were no cell phones. Let's talk about the internet. Didn't exist. Didn't exist even in anyone's imagination. So, in this changing environment, you have to pose the question, how do you manage change? I understand that this is not easy. In my last corporate position, I managed a business with 5,000 franchisees in 47 countries on 5 continents that spoke 42 languages. I am very familiar with the challenges that you face as an entrepreneur myself. To affect change, we have to understand what is happening, and as Jim Collins says, we have to face the brutal facts. And what I mean by that is we have to look at how that's impacting our business. Plan, execute, measure, look for incremental changes to yield results. It's a process. You've got to do something. Standing still is not an option. And often you don't have to do really big things to make a big impact on the profitability and the performance of your business. And I'm going to show you in a moment the real cost of inaction, but I want to give you a way to think about it. Since the 1940s, inflation has averaged about 3% annually. And so we've used that in this example on the slide. If you look at $1 million today, and you look at the value of that money in 5 years, $1 million today is going to become worth in 5 years $885,000 in purchasing power. I heard someone during this event say, you know, I'm going to manage my business and I'm going to bump right along underneath of the Obamacare rules, the ACA rules, and I'm going to be fine. No, you're not. Why? Inflation's going to eat up the value of that business that you're doing today. There is a cost to inaction. This won't work. So there is opportunity and evolutionary change. How do I leverage this for my gain? Well, you need to start by having a future business or future vision, try it again, of where you want your business to go. You have to have a plan. You have to set high expectations of yourself and those engaged, those key players in your business. You have to bring real commitment to cause. You have to have an ability to identify where you can get incremental gains. And remember, the parts, the small incremental changes that we make add up to a better whole. You need to obtain commitment to the vision of where you want your business to go and ask your team to commit to being a part of something great. Finally, celebrate every single incremental victory, and along the way, be willing to acknowledge and share defeats. Those that succeed in managing change are folks that do very specific things. So let's look at some winners in change management, a couple of companies in transition, and some companies that failed to change and are going to most likely go away. They're going to eventually fail because they were unwilling or unable to affect change. This is a photograph of the original McDonald's. By the way, if you'll notice, 15-cent hamburgers. It's a long time ago. This is where McDonald's started, and in the 1970s, this is what a McDonald's restaurant looked like. Today, interestingly enough, McDonald's has a very different business. And interestingly enough, we're in the news today. You may have heard that they're going to change the look of Ronald McDonald after 5 consecutive months of downward sales here in the United States. But did you realize that today, McDonald's makes more money from the sale of coffee than they make from the sale of hamburgers? If you think back to that original picture, what were they selling? 15-cent hamburgers. What are they selling today? Well, they still sell hamburgers, but they're really in the coffee business. I'm just curious, by show of hands, how many of you, when you want to go and have a good cup of coffee, immediately think, I've got to go to McDonald's? Anybody? That's really not the way most of us think. Another example.